First of all, this is not clickbait. I really think I was rescued by the police. And honestly, I think this is the best really lady video yet. Just happened, just came home, wanted to sit here and tell you while it was still fresh on my mind, because there are just so many funny details that I feel make it kind of obvious that God was involved in the situation, and I owe all praise to him, and thankfully I'm okay and the girls are okay. Today was my turn to take my daughter and her friend to basketball. I carpool with her mom because we just have so many games and so many practices just to keep us all sane. So everything was fine. We were on our way. I live in Delaware, but the practice location is in Pennsylvania. And so we were on our way, and I was driving along this road that's not a highway, but it's a main road that a lot of people take, and you can get to pretty high speeds on this road. And it starts off in a populated area, but then it gets a little rural into Pennsylvania where I was going for the practice. And so as we were driving, we hit a pothole, and it kind of shook up the car a little bit. It was a small pothole because I didn't see it in time to avoid it. And I thought to myself, oh no, I hope I don't get a flat. And then I told the girls a story of a time that I hit a pothole when we lived in New York City, and I did get a flat. And so we were all laughing it off like it was no big deal. So I dropped the girls off at their practice with no problem, and I was on my way to go off with the younger two girls, Ms. Mocha Baby and Mocha Girl 3, my 11-year-old, because I had promised that I would take them Christmas shopping while we were waiting for Mocha Girl 2 to be done with her basketball practice. And so, you know, we're driving, then the car just starts shaking, and I'm like, oh no, I remember this shaking. I've been here before, you know, because that's what happened the last time I hit a pothole and got a flat tire, except that time I was on the highway. So this road wasn't all that much better though, you guys. It was kind of like a country highway style road that people are zipping through really fast, even though there are no shoulders. There are no shoulders. And you know, so basically what happened was my tire went flat. And the car started to shake so much that I didn't think I could go any further. And you know, the car, even though I was going relatively fast, the car was barely moving. And so I thought, you know, I must be on the rim. And so I kept trudging forward until I saw it wasn't a shoulder. It was an embankment that went a little bit away from the road, just enough to kind of get me off the center of the road, because it's a regular size road, but it's 2 lanes, one going in either direction. And so I wanted to get out of the way. So I didn't know what was behind me when I pulled over, but I pulled over so that people could get around me. But when I turned around, I noticed that I had pulled over and it was like a blind spot. The road kind of dipped down. So the people that were driving toward me wouldn't see me until they crested the rise, and there I'd be, and there wasn't a whole lot of time to slow down and get around me. And so I was oddly calm. Like, I realized that this is not a good situation. And then I just really calmly thought, what should I do? I said, let me call the police, because I'm gonna call the police first, because I feel like somebody is going to rear end me. So let me call the police so that they could put up flares or block off the road or reroute traffic or something until roadside assistance can get to me. I know how to change a tire, and if I didn't, I could figure it out looking at the manual, but there was no shoulder. And my car was up against the bank so that I couldn't even open the door. You know, so changing the tire myself wasn't going to happen. Plus, it was getting dark and I had the 2 girls in the back. So I said, let me call the cops so that they could come do something about preventing me from getting into an accident while I wait for roadside assistance. So I called the cops, and there were no streets, no houses, no house numbers or anything. All I knew from my GPS was the next major street, that intersection that I was going to come to turn. and that was 3.6 miles away. So I called up the police, and this the first time I called the PA police. I wasn't sure if I was in PA still or if I had crossed over into Delaware. And you know, after this was all over, come to realize that I was very close to Delaware, but I was still in PA. And so I called them, and the first thing they wanted to know, well, what's your location? And I told them, you know, I'm not sure exactly where I am, but I can tell you where I left and how long ago I left it, and the fact that I'm coming up to this major road in 3.6 miles. But the trouble was that, you know, they were like, well, is that Delaware or is that Pennsylvania? From what you're describing, I'm thinking you're in Delaware. So let me send you over to the Delaware police. And I was like, wait, listen, you know, I've got my 2 younger daughters in the back seat, and I'm really afraid that somebody is going to hit us. Is there nothing that you can do for me? Well, let me just send you to the Delaware police. So they transferred me to the Delaware police. And the Delaware police was like, no, we think you're in Pennsylvania. This is a jurisdiction of the Pennsylvania police. So they sent me back to the Pennsylvania police. We went back and forth until finally someone, and at that point I wasn't sure which one it was, said that they were sending someone out. So we just sat there and sat there and sat there and sat there, and honestly, we sat there for an hour. No one came. I called roadside assistance. They said someone was coming. Just wait. When we get there, we'll let you know. We'll send you a text about what the people look like. And that was a trip trying to have them understand where I was, because the person I was talking to was in Arizona. So she had no concept of, you know, the street that I was telling her I was 3 miles from is a major street. And so she was trying to figure out all the little small intersections in between to see if that would be a better guide. And so we're going back and forth, and we're all sitting in the car waiting, and I'm oddly calm, and I'm looking around me, and I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna get hit any moment, and it's getting dark, okay? And so what ends up happening is that these 2 college guys in one of those open trucks that you could ride without the 2 doors on them, they pulled up in front of me, and they came up to me, ma'am, you know, are you okay? Is everything okay? What can I do for you? You know? And so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy that you stopped, because in all of this time, no one has stopped to find out if we were okay. And we even had people honking at us to get out of the way, as if I wouldn't get out of the way if I felt that it was possible for me to get out of the way. And so he walked all around my car, and he said, you know, cars are a hobby of mine. Don't worry, I know what I'm talking about. And he climbed the embankment, could barely see the top tire. That's how wedged we were into the embankment. And he was like, I'm really concerned about you being here, because I feel like, you know, it's really hard to stop in time without hurting you. And mind you, I'd been there for almost an hour, or an hour at least. And, you know, God had been making it so everyone was skirting around me without hitting me. And so he was like, you know, there's nothing I can do. I'm so sorry. There's nothing I can do to help you. His friend climbed up under the embankment, under the car, and was able to see the tire. And I'm going to show you all the tire. Was able to see the tire, and told me that the tire was completely shredded, and that he didn't know how much further I could really go, or if I could go any further. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I hope everything works out for you. They made sure I had a phone and everything else like that, and they left. Then the next thing I know, an ambulance comes, or the paramedics. It was a big fire, the big one that you usually see with the fire truck, and it just lights up the road. And they come out with a flashlight, you know, ma'am, are you okay? We got a call. We got a call from someone in the area that you were slumped over in your car. And so, you know, I was like, no, I'm fine. And then he saw that I was talking to my husband on the phone, and my husband is working out of town, of course, today. And so he said, you know, are you okay? Is everything okay? Someone called, so that's why we came. And someone must have called in a relatively short amount of time, and they came really quick. And the cops that I called still haven't shown up yet, okay, you guys? And so, you know, he's looking in the car and, you know, and he's like, you have kids in the back of the car. I said, I know that. I told that to the police. I was hoping they would send somebody out here to put some flares or something until the tow truck could come, or they could call the tow truck. I know the police can move things a lot faster. And so, you know, he says, well, we can't do anything about moving your car. We think it's really dangerous for you to stay here, but we can put some flares. So they put flares directly behind my car and further along, rerouting traffic, closing off that side of the road so that people can get around me safely. So roadside assistance calls, and they messed up because even though I explained my situation in detail to them, they were sending a regular car asking me, do I have tools and a spare in my car to put on a spare tire? But they didn't have a tow truck. They were sending a regular car. And then when I explained to them again about the fact that there's no place to change a tire, okay, now let's put in an order for a tow truck. So I'm still sitting here, you guys. I'm still sitting here. And so finally, a police car rolls up. And so I'm thinking, this is the police that I called for. And, you know, the first thing he says with his flashlight and everything, and, you know, with everything that's been in the news, you would think I would be afraid, but I was really calm. And, you know, I rolled down my window, ma'am, you know, why are you here? Do you realize how dangerous it is for you to be here? And I'm looking at him like, dude, don't you see the flares? You think I have some flares in my trunk? And I set those flares up. Clearly things have occurred and assistance has been had for this setup that you see here. But he was asking me, are you aware that you shouldn't be here, that this is very dangerous, that an accident could happen? And, you know, and then I explained the situation to him and he was like, what? He's like, you called Pennsylvania and no one came, you called Delaware and no one came. And he just looked really annoyed. Okay, his partner was a woman. She comes out, they asked me for my driver's license. I explained the situation. They look at the tire. Then he was like, well, ma'am, I can't allow you to stay here. And so, you know, I think you will need to move to the next intersection. You know, we can't just let you stay here. And I'm looking at him like, dude, you know, really, I don't really want to stay here. So my really lady was with, you know, the police that I spoke to in Delaware and in Pennsylvania, because they were both women, and I just wanted to say, really, lady, really? But I was having a really dude moment with this police officer. But I heard him talking to his partner and he was like, yeah, let's just get her off the road and I'll change the tire myself. And so now that I knew that the police would be behind me with their lights, and, you know, in case I tried to go forward and I couldn't go any further, because aside from that bank, there was absolutely no shoulder, nowhere for me to pull off at all after that. They followed me and I drove super slow and turned into the development, and then the cop and his partner, you know, struggled to get my spare off. There was some special lock key that needed to be used to get the tire off, and they switched it for me. Apparently me calling multiple times wasn't enough to get immediate action, but whoever else called, whoever else's voice sounded better, I don't know. Is my Brooklyn accent still here? I don't know. Were they able to tell certain things that will remain unspoken? I don't know. But I have a history of not really expecting the police to come quickly for me. It was that way when my house was robbed as a child in Brooklyn, and we called the police and they came several hours later. God was with me. God was really, really with me. He was with me enough so that this happened after I dropped the girls off at their practice. I went as far as I could until I could go no more in the only spot where there was an embankment that I could, you know, stick myself to the hill at. Those guys that stopped to tell me what was going on so that I'd have something coherent to tell the paramedic, because I was too afraid to get out of the car to try to look under the tire myself. You know, the fact that the cop was willing to change the tire himself. He could have just left me in the development and went about his business. The fact that after everything was over, I got to the location where I needed to be to pick up my daughter from basketball practice right on time. You know, and the fact that I'm okay. I just really know that God is real, that He's with me. The fact that I didn't freak out. When my daughter climbed into the car, the first thing she said was, you know, my friend's mom said that you were really calm, but I knew that you must have been losing it. And I was like, no, and I was really oddly calm. That had to be God. Because the little ones in the back started crying because they were scared. I turned every light on. I had my hazards on. I had every light in the car on. I was doing everything to make sure I could be seen because my car is a dark car. So, you know, God is real, you guys. God is real. There's some kind of scripture that says some trust in horses and some trust in chariots. I can say some trust in the cops, the paramedics, the, you know, pedestrians or people that live in the area to stop and help you. But I trust in the Lord, and He has never failed me yet.